We are kicking off a two-part mini-series on the state of the state parks, beginning with Washington State Parks. So let's go. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My Family of Four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. Our state parks are treasured jewels with a rich history here in Washington State that dates back all the way to 1915, when Larrabee State Park was first opened to the public. Washington State has more than 140 state parks, historic sites, trails, marine parks, and properties that are all available for you to explore. Joining us on this episode is Sarah Frank of Washington State Parks. You may remember her from last April 2024 when we first had her on the show in episode 57, The Future of Washington State Parks. If you haven't listened to that episode, I definitely recommend that you go give it a listen. I'm thrilled to have Sarah back on the show, and in this episode, she shares some of her favorite state parks, as well as some top 5 waterfront state parks, the new changes to the reservation system, as well as she teases us just a little bit about one of the newest state parks, Miller Peninsula. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on RV Out West.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about kind of what you've personally been up to since we last had you on the show back on episode, which I can't believe, 57, which coincidentally was April of 2023. So here we are 2 years later, almost to the month.
I have been, of course, busy at work, all things state parks, but then I've gotten to go on a lot of really cool trips recently. A big change in my life, my husband and I just bought our first house in the Bremerton area, and state parks was a huge help in that because we've got Illahee and Manchester right in the Bremerton area. So as we were driving up from Olympia to come look at houses, we got to check out and stay at the state parks. So that was a really cool experience. And then throughout like fall and winter, I did a lot of camping up in like the Wenatchee area. And then of course, all winter, I snowboard in Packwood. So it's been a lot of good outside time between the busy work times.
Well, you told me a little bit about some of your recent Pacific Northwest camping adventures. Why don't you give me a little bit more information? Where have you been? What things have you been doing adventure-wise in the state parks?
Yeah, well, like I said, I had the opportunity to stay at Illahee and Manchester State Parks. Illahee is right in Bremerton, and Manchester is over in Port Orchard. Both of them are on the water and really, I'm not going to say fully hidden gems. They're still fairly popular, but they're not really like our top most popular, not like towards the bottom. It was the first time I'd been to Manchester specifically, and I was blown away. You get a little bit of everything there. So I was able to, wake up in the mornings and walk my dogs through these forested trails, which was amazing. And then there's historic military structures there, and some people have like weddings and big picnics, and so to be able to, again, while we were living that sort of nomadic lifestyle between houses, able to set up and have meals in these like really cool brick buildings right on the water, and then getting out to see the water and the seals go by. My husband swears he saw an orca. I did not see it, so I can neither confirm nor deny, but he said it was out there.
Okay.
So that was really cool. And then a little bit earlier, back in the fall, I got to camp out at Lake Wenatchee. And again, I know that one is a more popular park. It's just a bit further away from me, but getting to actually be out there and see it was really incredible. It's one of those places where there's not too much light pollution. So at night, the stars over Lake Wenatchee were just really incredible.
And did you guys like bring paddle boards or anything to get out on the lake and paddle and go kayaking or whatever?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we were sort of a motley crew with our 2 paddle boards, each with a dog floating on the tip of it, paddling around the
Nice.
lake.
That's pretty fun. And then do you have any fun adventures planned for, this spring, summer 2025?
High on my bucket list, I really want to get out onto the east side a little bit more. I would love to go out to Riverside State Park and Mount Spokane and that general area. There's also the Crawford Caves are up there, which I see pictures that we've got a cave in our state park system. It's just really isolated up in the east corner of the state. So I would love to do some sort of road trip to go out there and hit those three places and get a little taste of the mountains, the river, and then that cave. And then I haven't been since I was a kid, but I'm dying to get back into the islands too and, you know, hop around, do a little bit of boarding, see if I can spot my own orcas. So kind of hitting both opposite ends of the state there.
Well, that's good. Moran State Park is a wonderful, wonderful state park up there.
hmm
Um, well, I would like to also kind of dig into some of the new things that are happening at Washington State Parks. So let's first talk about the exciting news of same-day reservations. Kind of, what's the story? How did that kind of come about, and just kind of how's it going to work, and what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is incredibly exciting. I think if I'm remembering back to our last interview, you, along with, everyone listening, want to know like what is the secret? How do I get a campsite? Especially when we're so busy. And same day reservations is a really good answer now that I have to that question. So it started back, we did our first pilot program in September of 2023, where we had same day reservations only at Cape Disappointment, Deception Pass, and Miller, Sylvania. And it was incredibly popular. So the next year we expanded that program out to about 24 state parks. And again, extremely popular. So this year we said, let's do it all state parks with reservable campgrounds, you can now make same day reservations until a 2 p.m. cutoff time. And then after that, our campsites are still, first come, first serve if there's anything available. So since we've launched that program, we've already had more than 7,500 same day reservations made. So again, that's 7,500 more nights people got to stay in state parks and sites that might have otherwise been empty or, last minute cancellations, that sort of thing. So we're really excited to be able to expand that out. And so just to like really clarify on the details, you can make same day reservations at any park that has a reservable campground or campsite during the reservable dates. So as you might know, in the winter, some of our parks go fully to first come, first serve, and that still stays the same. Really, by doing this, we're matching a lot of other state park systems. A lot of other states already had this option. So it's kind of bringing us up and meeting the same expectations that people might have when they're visiting Washington. And then speaking for myself, and I'm sure many others who are last minute planners, it just makes it easier to go camping. I am not the type of person who is thinking about where I might want to stay 9 months in advance. I'm definitely a day before, like, oh, maybe I should go camping this weekend. So for people like me, you can get a spot before gambling on driving out there, hoping that it looked like there was an empty spot on the web, but then by the time you get to the park, someone else might have claimed it. This makes it easier so you know you've got a spot when you get to whatever campground you'd want to stay in. So we're very excited about it, and I'm excited to see how many more reservations we have made by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is one of the reasons that this same day reservation came about, not just to get more people in and enjoying our state parks.
I think the leading reason is people were asking for this. People who stay at our state parks, we ask them to take a survey afterwards. And we really appreciate the people who do take the time to take it because it gives us a lot of helpful feedback so we can hear what people are saying and then make changes where we can. And so overwhelmingly, we were hearing from people, we want to be able to make same day reservations. And then on top of that, if we've got last minute cancellations or people who don't show, it gives us an opportunity to provide that camping experience for someone else who wants to come to the park and stay. And then, like I mentioned, the last thing is a lot of state park systems already have this. So again, it just kind of brings us into what people would expect from the state park system.
Got it. Okay. Um, I did read an article in the Seattle Times about a new state park. Can you tease us? Tell us just a little bit, whatever you can share at this moment. Is there anything you can share about this new state park?
Yeah, if you're talking about Miller Peninsula.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
So it's still very much in the planning stages. So what I can tell you, just to kind of give you its, baseball card stats, it's a 2,800 acre undeveloped park. It's just in the northern area of the Olympic Peninsula, kind of east of Squim. So right now it does have a trail system for hikers, mountain bikers, people on horseback, and it's in a really, really beautiful forest. It also has a little bit of saltwater shoreline, so a bunch of opportunities potentially there. But like I said, it's still very much in planning. So what we are asking people at this stage is to give us some of your feedback and tell us what is it that you would want to see at that park. So we've got a web page that tells you a little bit more about the planning process and what's happening there, but it also has two links, and one is to provide public comment, and then the other is to fill out a survey. And that survey specifically asks about those recreation activities, what you might do if you found yourself out in that area, what you would hope to find, what sort of camping experiences, recreation experiences, those sorts of things. And so we very much want to hear the public's feedback. So I highly encourage people to kind of help us shape what this park could potentially look like.
Well, I'm really excited. And so my other question is, when's the last time Washington State had a new state park? Or I guess then, what is the newest state park, not counting this one that is in planning?
That's a really great question. I might have to fact check myself on this. And I think it depends a little bit on what you would count. I think the other park that I would bring up is Nisqually State Park. It exists. It's there. You can visit it. But we're also developing a campground there and working closely with the Nisqually tribe on an interpretive plaza and art and all things in that area. And so that is technically the newest, though we are still continuing to develop it. And while I said it's open, it's actually closed right now for some of that development. So by the end of the summer, we might have some more exciting things to talk about when it comes to Nisqually State Park.
That is so cool. I just love seeing that the state is taking initiative to grow and make our state park system even larger. I love our state park system. I'd like to pause here and share a word with you about our friends over at camperalerts.com. It's summertime and the great outdoors are calling, but did you forget to book a campsite 9 months ago? Well, don't worry. Say goodbye to sold-out campgrounds with Camper Alerts. With Camper Alerts, you can choose your campground, select your site type, and set a personalized alert. And when a site becomes available, they will notify you. It's that simple. Visit camperalerts.com today and start setting your alerts. Beach cleanup. I've been reading about that as well. What can you tell me about kind of how the state parks have been involved in beach cleanup and what's going on over there with that?
Yeah, so we participate in three major beach cleanups every single year, and it's part of a collaboration between us and Washington Coast Savers and a few other small organizations. So we've got the Washington Coast Cleanup, which is actually coming up on April 22nd. And then we've got our July 5th beach cleanup, our post 4th of July beach event. And then we've got one towards the end of the year, and that's the International Coast Cleanup. And I am very passionate about these events. I really, really love them for a lot of reasons. One, it's an opportunity to go out to some of our beachy state parks and hang out with other people in that area. It brings in a lot of volunteers. And then two, it's not just getting to be at the beach, it's getting to be there and make a difference. And it's not insubstantial. So I'm gonna throw some numbers at you.
Yeah, please tell me. Yeah,
So last year at the Washington Coast Cleanup, we had 636 volunteers who showed up, and they cleaned up more than 16,000 pounds of garbage off the beach. Then after that, at our July,
disgusting.
Oh yeah, oh just wait.
Oh my gosh.
Then at our July 5th beach cleanup, we had over 1,000 volunteers. They picked up over 129,000 pounds of garbage.
People pack out.
Right. And then at our last cleanup for last year, we had another 565 volunteers, and they cleaned up just short of 14,000 pounds of garbage. And so cumulatively, that's just over 2,300 people who came out to help and be good land stewards and do their part to support. And that's just short of 160,000 pounds of garbage, or over 79 tons, that we cleaned up off of our beaches. And so there's the hope there. It's incredible that we had that many people who wanted to come out and help. It is not great that there is that much garbage to clean up, but we're hoping to continue to bring people out to spread awareness, to really reinforce those leave no trace principles. And hopefully we see the same amount of volunteers. We still want people to come out, but less garbage picked up because there's less garbage to be picked up.
Let me ask, do you think a lot of that garbage is people who have gone out whatever, 4th of July fireworks and it's sandwich baggies and chip bags and, that kind of garbage? Or do you think a
Yeah.
percentage of it is washed ashore from just whatever? Unfortunately, there's a lot of trash out in our oceans too. So,
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. There is, would venture to say, quite a bit that is just washing in from the ocean. But like in the numbers that I read you, that July 5th beach cleanup is where we're picking up the most garbage for the entire year. And we know a lot of that is related to 4th of July. That's fireworks debris that people have left behind. And then it is that smaller garbage. When you're talking those numbers, I think an important thing to remember is that we're not talking, big hunks of junk that people have left out on the
right,
beach.
this is
That
not
is
big like Costco cardboard boxes. This is
right. This is those sandwich bags, those wrappers, those things that have blown away, bottles, cans, things like that that get left behind. And to give you that scale of how much garbage we're talking about, when you think of how many of those little things would equal 130,000
I can't even
pounds of
fathom.
garbage. Yeah, it's not great, but we're continuing to try and push that message. Washington Coast Savers, especially at the 4th of July, is on the beach handing out garbage bags to people, like really trying to make it as easy as possible to throw things away. And we've got big dumpsters set up too. So we recognize, lead with good intent. I think a lot of people want to do the right thing. Sometimes little wrappers blow away and you don't think it's worth it to chase it down. What difference does that really make? But it does. It clearly adds up. And so everything that you can do to clean up and leave it cleaner than when you got there is a great benefit, not just to our beaches and to the other people who want to be there and enjoy a clean beach, but to our marine wildlife and those habitats there. A lot of our ocean beaches are home to an endangered species called the snowy plover, and they nest up in the dunes. And so, again, if not for the people, think of the animals that live in our beaches and need those healthy environments to survive.
the last time we talked, you shared the top 5 most visited state parks and the top 5 least visited state parks. For you, we'll start with what are your top 5 personal favorite state parks?
Okay, yeah. I would say I talked about it a little bit, so I won't go into too much detail, but I really love Manchester. I just had such a cool experience visiting Manchester and getting that mix of nature and human history. So that is near the top of my list right now, at least.
Okay, fair.
Potentially a lesser known park that I really love is Ginkgo Petrified Forest State Park. And you're kind of getting double the park there. The Ginkgo side has petrified wood that is scattered all over the landscape and just this really interesting scrubby ecosystem that's just, to me as a nature nerd, very fascinating, and a lot of different species that have been specially adapted to live in that harsher environment. So it's very cool to go out with some binoculars and try and spot there. And then in addition to that, you're above the Columbia River, so you've got beautiful views. And then just down the road from that, sort of a sister park to it, you can go camping at Wanapum, and they've got lawns so you can, lay out in the grass on the river too and get a little break from the heat. So I really, really love the Ginkgo area. If you haven't been out there yet, I definitely check it out. Let me see, we're at two.
That's
Three,
true.
I would say Lincoln Rock over near East Wenatchee. Again, just another cool sort of central Washington location with water access and just cool craggy rocks to see. And then they just recently, I believe last year was the first year, started a summer concert series called Rhythm on the River. So you get to go camp, paddleboard on the water, and then listen to live music at night. And that is pretty
That's
cool.
amazing. That is so cool.
Fourth, I would say Ike Kinswa. Again, I spend all of my winter going out to Packwoods to go snowboarding. So I pass by Ike Kinswa every single weekend. And I finally pulled in to check it out. And it's a great, if you want to go camping surrounded by just really mossy, lush green forest. It's got a great campground. And then across the road, if you've got kids and a family, they've got a really cool like jungle gym playground area, but it's also right on the river there. And the river is just the coolest deep green color. And they've got a swim area in the summer. So another cool, a little off the beaten path place to check out. And then my last would have to be Sequest State Park. I think, in Washington, if we're in the business of picking our favorite volcanoes, Mount St. Helens is mine. And so Sequest is the state park to go to if you love Mount St. Helens. And then I'm not sure if you knew, but we are in the process of updating the whole Mount St. Helens Visitor Center. So we're hoping to have that reopened in the next couple of months, but updating all of the exhibits. So again, if you really just want to nerd out on Mount St. Helens history, that's going to be a really cool spot to go to this summer.
I'm actually going to Mount St. Helens Memorial Weekend this year for the first time. I've never been to Mount St. Helens, and I was alive when she
Oh,
blew up. So I'm really excited. This is like kind of a bucket list thing for me. But the road to Johnston Observatory, is it still washed out?
so with the road washout that's blocking access to the Johnston Ridge Observatory, the Mount St. Helens Visitor Center that's managed by state parks is really one of the only interpretive centers that you can visit along that road now to learn more about the history of Mount St. Helens and what happened there.
Okay, and where is that interpretive center?
This one, it's technically listed as Castle Rock, but it's a little bit east of there between Castle Rock and Tootle. So
Okay.
that's right there on Spirit Lake Highway, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really cool spot. It has a movie theater, and the film that's being shown in that theater is part of what's also being redone as we're reworking the exhibits. So there'll be a lot of cool things. I know a favorite for kids who visit our visitor center is we've got a model of the mountain that you can go inside, and that is being retained with these renovations as well. So yeah, if you're heading that way this summer, I would highly recommend you check it out and let me know what you think.
That sounds really, really cool. I'm excited. Let's talk about 5 state parks that have great waterfront access.
Yeah, I'm trying to you're putting the pressure on now. I'm gonna see if I can give you state parks that cover like lake, river, ocean, sound. Tolney State Park is a great one on the water. It is in the northern Olympia area. And so you're getting that saltwater and tidal action, and you're also getting the forest and some trails there. And it's a much smaller park, but it also gives you that smaller feel where there are times where you're out there on the water and you feel like you've got the beach kind of to yourself. And there are some picnic tables set up. And I think every time I go there, I see at least one or two bald eagles. So it's a very, very cool spot.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention Battleground Lake State Park also, and that's heading south towards Battleground, a little bit north of Vancouver in southwest Washington. My husband's from that area and grew up getting to swim in that lake. And so it's another, a little bit more popular area, but if you're looking for that lake swimming sort of summer camp experience, it's another really beautiful, great place to go. Do I get to cheat and say Lake Wenatchee since
That,
I've already
that
mentioned
Lake,
it?
no, go for it. Lake Wenatchee is not cheating. That's a great option.
Yeah, I know I mentioned, but Lake Wenatchee is beautiful. You've got the mountains kind of surrounding you and then getting to paddle around on the lake. I would say that in the summer it does get really, really busy, but again, for good reason. It is a really incredible spot, and I love getting to hang out in Wenatchee and Leavenworth area too. And they also have a concert series in the summer. So again, if that's, I would love to be able to do this trip and, write a blog or something about it, but getting to do like a traveling concert series at state parks would be really cool. And so Wenatchee is a great spot for that. And then we've got, I will be honest, I haven't been able to venture out to all of these yet because, some of them are marine access only. But we've got a ton of island parks that now that I personally live in the Bremerton area, I'm excited to explore. We've got Blake Island, which is a marine state park. So the only way to get to it is if you've got a boat and can moor up there. But it is beautiful. And again, if you're looking to have some more of that like private outdoor experience, that's a great spot to go. Again, though, because the bar to entry is a little bit higher.
Right.
I'm trying to dig deep and see if I've got another good one I can share with you. If you really want to get out there, I think maybe that's my theme of the day. Curlew Lake State Park is in Northeast Washington, and it's 87 acres. And it is, again, another beautiful rural spot where you can camp and fish. And it's in those rolling hills that are kind of in that northeastern part of the state. So I think we've got a lot of parks in like that I-5 corridor in the west that are beautiful and popular for good reason. But if you're really looking to take a trip, heading out and checking out some of our east side parks, you're not going to be disappointed. There's a lot of cool things to see out there and sort of a different landscape. And again, that fishing, camping, a little bit more private experience.
I've been to Curler. Curler's pretty cool.
Did I hit five? I've got one more if you need one
Okay,
more.
you know what? I'm always down for an honorable mention. We could do a top six. Doesn't have to be a top five.
I mentioned that I'm dying to get up to the island. So Lime Kiln Point State Park up in Friday Harbor is really excellent. I know our rangers up in that area are just amazing people and excited to talk to anyone who comes up and visit. And so if you go up there, be sure to grab a ranger and ask them about any orca sightings. They've probably got a pair of binoculars that they can pass over to you to look out in the water and see. And it's a spot where you can see them quite often. So if that's what if you're wanting that like really classic picturesque Washington experience, go out to an island, see a couple whales. That's the spot to go do it.
Okay. That sounds fun. And who doesn't want to see whales? I just read first time in the 14-ish years that the Discover Pass has been around, they are raising the rates. Now, I don't have a problem with that if you haven't raised them in 14 years, but I didn't see a timeline on any of that. Do you know any updated information as far as when that's going to be implemented?
It's not for sure yet. They're still talking about it in the legislature and it's still kind of working its way through that process.
Got it.
But
Okay.
yeah, but you're exactly right. The Discover Pass was created in 2011, and in statute, it's supposed to be evaluated for inflationary increases every 2 years, but that hasn't happened. In the meantime, inflation has gone up about 40%. We're really appreciative of the sponsors of the House and Senate bill that are looking at the Discover Pass, and we're watching to see what happens because, as you can imagine, depending on if that bill passes or not, it would have a pretty significant impact on state parks potentially. And so, with that, I don't know if people necessarily realize, but state parks specifically, we earn 64% of our own operating budget. And so that comes from Discover Pass sales, from camping reservations, and from other fees. So when you make your camping reservation, when you buy your Discover Pass, you are directly supporting the operations of state parks and those 124 plus-ish parks that we've got across the system.
And then you give the extra $5 when you renew your tabs.
That's
too.
right. Yep.
Yep. Let's talk about the future of Washington state parks. I mean, I feel like we did a lot of that already, but now let's talk more 5, 10 years down the road. Is there any talk of like big vision stuff for kind of the future of Washington state parks a decade from now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We are going to be moving into some strategic planning to really kind of determine what are our goals, and that's some upcoming work that's happening. I think where we're at right now is, with just the general federal situation, with our local budget situation, we're very focused. Again, we're looking forward, but we're kind of looking at this summer and the next couple biennia as well, and what that might potentially mean if there are budget cuts that impact our agency. Even if the Discover Pass bill does pass, we know that there's going to be some budget cuts likely from the state. And so determining what that looks like. And so a big focus for us is education and helping people who come to our parks know what to expect and how they can help support us. And so a lot of that is really reinforcing those leave no trace principles and helping people understand that we might be a little bit understaffed, or the staff that we have might be really, really busy trying to maintain the park. So what can you as a visitor do to help us? And like I said, a big piece of that is buying your Discover Pass, but another part of it is being a good land steward when you are in those parks and making sure you're picking up garbage, even little things, even, the corner of a gummy pack that you've ripped off. All of that adds up. And so cleaning up after yourselves, I think the biggest is, again, those dog poop bags on the trail.
Yep.
The nemesis
Yep.
of everyone.
Yep.
Making sure we're cleaning those up. And then I think just being patient with staff too, and recognizing that I might have mentioned this the last time that you had me on, but I just think one of the most incredible things about working at parks is I truly feel like the people I work with want to be here because they care so much about what we do and about the lands and about recreation. And so in these maybe leaner times, they want to do their best. Those our rangers, our people in the field are doing everything that they can. And so if a bathroom is a little bit dirtier, it hurts us as just as much as you don't want to see it. But we are trying to make it a priority to make sure that our parks are still safe, clean places that people want to be. But we are looking to our visitors to help us a little bit too.
What does the Washington State Park system mean to you?
That's a really, really great question. I think for me personally, I am an Army brat. I moved every 2 years my entire life. And so when I landed in Washington and started working for the state, and particularly working at state parks, they feel like home to me. Nature is something that I've always gravitated to because there's something to enjoy in nature no matter where you live. And so now getting to work for a park system that still has all of this variety, for me, it feels like home. It feels like a safe place, and it feels like a place where I get to continue to learn. And particularly with Washington State Parks, I mentioned they're so diverse. I mean, even in the parks we've talked about oceans, we've talked about shrub step. There's so much to explore and to continue to learn about and to see. And so that's what's kept me here. That's why I love my job so much. And that's what I really appreciate about our system is I know I'm biased, but I will say I think that Washington State Parks is the best state park system in the country.
Okay, well, on that note, then, where can people follow along and learn more about Washington State Parks online, on social, updates about the new park, etc.? Where can they follow along?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is just very simple, parks.wa.gov. You can learn about all the different activities and state parks we have there. I would also recommend people check out our field guide blog. I know blog is a bit of an antiquated term, but the field guide is really a bunch of cool resources, trip ideas and itineraries, recipes, a great way to learn how to really enhance your state park experience. And then, of course, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and we've got a lot of awesome, fun content there. And sometimes our rangers contribute to it too. So you're getting glimpses into the parks all across the state and some of the fun things we've got going on.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us again on RV Out West. It really was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again for listening to RV Out West. I sincerely appreciate it. If you liked this episode, please share it with your family and friends. I'd also like to invite you to follow RV Out West on Instagram and Facebook, where you can join in on the conversation. Next week's episode, we wrap up our 2-part mini-series on the state of the state parks with a conversation with Stephanie from Oregon State Parks. It's a great conversation, and she shares some great state parks that you will want to visit on your next camping trip in Oregon. Be sure to tune in next Monday. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again next week. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I sure would appreciate it if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing us the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.